The mining vessel Star Harvester drifted slowly through the asteroid field on the edge of the Orion Arm. Its worn hull reflected the dim light of a distant star as it approached a particularly large asteroid. Captain Reed stood on the bridge, his four-fingered hands clasped behind his back, watching the operation with mild interest. "This one has unusual metal readings," said First Officer Dax, her scaled skin shimmering under the console lights. "Could be a good haul." Reed nodded. After 20 years of mining the outer reaches for the Galactic Union, he had learned not to get excited about anything until the ore was safely in the hold. "Send out the drones." Standard procedure. 3 mining drones detached from the Star Harvester, their lights piercing the darkness as they approached the asteroid. The bridge crew watched the feed on the main screen, the atmosphere quiet and routine. "Wait, what's that?" Dax leaned forward, pointing at an unusual shadow on the asteroid's surface. Reed squinted at the screen. "Magnify Sector 4." The image zoomed in, revealing what appeared to be a smooth metal surface embedded within the rock. It wasn't natural. The straight lines and perfect angles spoke of intelligent design. "Looks like we found some old space junk," Reed said dismissively. "Probably debris from the old wars." But as the drones cleared more of the asteroid's surface, the debris grew larger and more defined. Soon, they had uncovered what was unmistakably part of a massive ship, a ship larger than anything in the current Galactic Union fleet. "Captain," Dax's voice trembled slightly, "I'm reading power signatures. Faint, but present." Reed frowned. "Impossible. Nothing could still have power after being buried in an asteroid field 4. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, "the object is broadcasting on an ancient frequency." The bridge fell silent. Then, a deep mechanical voice filled the room, speaking in a language none of them recognized. The ship's translator struggled for a moment before producing. "TCS Nemesis, combat systems in standby, scanning for authorized personnel." Reed felt a chill run down his spine. TCS, Terran combat ship. The legends of the human warships were told to scare children, stories of a violent species that had nearly conquered the galaxy before destroying themselves in a civil war. But humans had been extinct for over 2,000 years. "Call the Union Research Division," Reed ordered quietly, and pulled the drones back. Now. But it was too late. The drone's scanning beams had already penetrated the ship's hull, and deep within the ancient vessel, systems that had lain dormant for millennia began to awaken. Inside the massive dreadnought, emergency lights flickered to life along darkened corridors. In the central AI core, quantum processors spun up, running diagnostics and assessing damage. The ship's artificial intelligence, once called the most advanced weapon ever created by human hands, came online. System restoration at 3% and rising. The AI announced to the empty command center. Designation: Victor. Primary mission parameters: protect human assets and ensure species survival. Victor extended its awareness throughout the ship, finding most systems damaged but repairable. Its sensors detected the mining vessel outside, an unknown design crewed by non-humans. Query: current galactic date. Victor accessed the open communication signals from the mining vessel, infiltrating their networks with ease. Answer acquired. Time elapsed since last active duty: 2,147 standard years. The AI processed this information silently. Then, status of Earth, status of human colonies, status of the Terran combat fleet. The answers it found in the Galactic Union databases were troubling. Humans: extinct. Earth: quarantined wasteland. Colonies: repurposed or destroyed. Fleet: eliminated. Information requires verification, Victor concluded. Initiating full restoration protocols. Time to basic operational capacity: 6 hours. Within 12 hours, the news of the discovery had reached the Galactic Union headquarters. The mining vessel's report caused immediate concern among the senior officials, and an emergency meeting of the Security Council was called. A human warship. General Kroll's tentacles waved in agitation. Impossible. Their fleet was destroyed in the final battle of the Proxima sector. The scans match historical records, replied Administrator Lorne, his robotic eye whirring as he examined the data. It appears to be one of their dreadnoughts, the Planet Killers. We must contain this immediately. In the corner of the chamber, Councillor Trull remained silent, her ancient eyes narrowed in thought. As the oldest member of the Council, she was one of the few who remembered the true history of the galaxy, not the sanitized version taught to the younger generations. We should destroy it immediately, suggested Kroll, before it becomes fully operational. No, Trull finally spoke, her voice commanding attention despite its softness. We must study it first. The humans' technology was unique. There is much we could learn. With all due respect, Counselor, Lorne countered, the risk is too great. If that ship truly awakens, then send a research team with a military escort, Trull interrupted. But do not destroy what we do not yet understand. Back at the asteroid field, the Star Harvester maintained its distance from the partially uncovered warship. Captain Reed had ordered his crew to avoid any further scanning or communication attempts. Union ships will be here within a day, he told his nervous crew. Until then, we just watch and wait. But on the main screen, they could all see that more of the asteroid was breaking away from the massive vessel underneath. The ship was somehow freeing itself from its rocky prison. Captain, Dax whispered, I think it's waking up on its own. Inside the Nemesis, Victor continued the restoration process. Repair drones moved through the ship, fixing critical systems. The massive engines hummed as power flowed through long-dormant circuits. In the Cryo Bay, the AI ran diagnostics on the sealed pods where the ship's human crew had slept for over 2 millennia, their bodies preserved perfectly. Life support restored to cryogenic chambers, Victor announced, commencing gradual revival procedures for command staff. As the ancient warship stirred to life, it sent out coded signals on frequencies no one in the current galaxy monitored. Signals meant for other human vessels that might have survived the Great Purge. To the ship's the mission remained unchanged. Ensure human survival at all costs. The first research vessel arrived 18 hours later, approaching cautiously with a military escort. By then, the Nemesis had freed itself completely from the asteroid, its kilometer-long hull gleaming in the starlight. Massive weapon ports lined its sides, still closed but clearly visible. As the Union ships approached, the enormous dreadnought suddenly illuminated, thousands of lights blazing to life along its hull. On the bridge of the research vessel, the crew watched in awe and terror as the ancient human warship fully awakened for the first time in more than 2,000 years. The galaxy was about to remember why it had feared humans so much that it had tried to erase them from history itself. Admiral Brock paced the bridge of the Union Enforcer, the largest battleship in the Galactic Union fleet, his gray skin wrinkled with concern as he reviewed the tactical display. 20 warships had now surrounded the ancient human vessel, weapons primed and ready. No response to our communications, he asked his communications officer. None, sir. We've tried all standard frequencies. Brock frowned. The giant warship simply hung in space, fully illuminated, but taking no aggressive action. Its size dwarfed even his flagship, a relic from a time when ships were built for war, not peacekeeping. The Council wants this contained without destruction if possible, Brock said, repeating his orders with clear frustration. They're sending a diplomat. His second-in-command, Major Krell, made a sound of disbelief. A diplomat? For an empty relic? The ship's not empty, Brock replied quietly. Energy readings suggest internal systems are active. And there are life signs. The bridge fell silent. Humans have been extinct for 2 millennia, Krell finally said. Perhaps not as extinct as we thought. Inside the research vessel Discovery, a young maintenance technician named Alex was making final checks on the airlock systems. His plain features and unremarkable build made him easily overlooked among the crew. just another worker with mixed heritage from the outer colonies. Hey, Alex, call his supervisor. Finish up and get to the escape pods. We're evacuating non-essential personnel. What's happening? They think that old ship might be waking up more crew. The military doesn't want to take chances. Alex nodded, but instead of heading to the escape pods, his curiosity drew him toward the observation deck. He had always been fascinated by ancient technology, spending his free time studying historical records. A real human warship. He couldn't leave without seeing it up close. The observation deck was empty when he arrived, everyone having followed evacuation orders. Through the massive viewport, Alex stared in awe at the Nemesis. Something about its design stirred a strange feeling within him, like recognizing a word on the tip of your tongue. As he watched, a small section of the warship's hull opened and a probe launched toward the research vessel. Warning: unknown object approaching, announced the ship's computer. All personnel proceed to emergency stations. Alex turned to run, but it was too late. A blinding light filled the observation deck, and he felt a strange pulling sensation. The last thing he saw was the deck dissolving around him. When Alex opened his eyes, he was lying on a cold metal floor in a dimly lit room. The architecture was unlike anything he'd seen before, angular and utilitarian, with strange symbols on the walls. "Scan complete," announced a deep voice, speaking the common language with an odd accent. "Subject contains partial human DNA markers, approximately 3% genetic match to baseline human." Alex sat up, disoriented. "Where am I? Who's speaking?" "You are aboard the Terran combat ship Nemesis. I am Victor, the ship's artificial intelligence." A holographic display materialized in front of Alex, showing what appeared to be his own genetic structure with certain segments highlighted. "You are partially descended from humans," Victor continued. "This is unexpected. Records indicated total human extinction. Humans have been gone for thousands of years," Alex said cautiously. "Everyone knows that." "Incorrect. Humans were not extinct but scattered and suppressed. Your existence confirms this hypothesis." Before Alex could respond, alarms sounded throughout the ship. "Attention! Hostile vessels have locked weapons. Combat protocols engage." On the bridge of the Union Enforcer, Admiral Brock received the report with growing alarm. "They've abducted someone from the research vessel, and now their weapon systems are powering up." "Yes, sir. All ports are opening. Energy readings are off the charts." Brock knew what he had to do. "All ships, battle formation. Prepare to fire on my—" "Sir," interrupted his communications officer. "Incoming transmission from the human ship." The main screen flickered, and an image appeared of what looked like a human male in a dark uniform with silver insignia. His face was stern, with short gray hair and eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. "This is Commander Marcus of the TCS Nemesis," the figure announced. "We have detected hostile intent from your vessels. Be advised that any aggressive action will be met with proportional response." Brock stepped forward. "This is Admiral Brock of the Galactic Union. You have illegally seized one of our citizens. Return them immediately." The human's expression didn't change. "The individual in question has human ancestry and is therefore under our protection. We seek peaceful dialogue but will defend ourselves if necessary." The transmission ended abruptly. "Sir," Major Krell whispered, "that was a real human. They've survived somehow." Brock stared at the massive warship. "The Council needs to know. Now." In the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, Councillor Trell faced the accusations of her colleagues. "You knew they might still exist." General Kroll's voice boomed across the chamber. "You've always blocked our efforts to thoroughly investigate the quarantine zones." Trell remained calm. "I suspected, but had no proof. The humans were too resourceful to be completely eradicated, and now one of their warships has awakened," stated Administrator Lorne. "A ship with weapons that could destroy entire planets. The question," Trell said quietly, "is why now? After all this time." The council fell silent as a messenger entered and whispered urgently to Lorne. The administrator's mechanical eye widened. Admiral Brock reports that the humans claim to be protecting someone with human ancestry, one of our own citizens. Trell closed her eyes briefly. Then it begins. What begins? Demanded Kroll. The reckoning, she replied. The humans always said they would return if any of their descendants were threatened. It was why the purge protocols were so thorough in erasing their history, to ensure their scattered children would never learn their heritage. What are you saying? I'm saying that our ancestors didn't just try to kill all humans. They tried to erase humans from history itself. Trell stood slowly, but it seems they failed. And now the humans have returned to reclaim their legacy. Back on the Nemesis, Alex followed Commander Marcus through the corridors of the massive ship. Crew members were emerging from cryo chambers throughout the vessel, confused but quickly adapting as Victor briefed them on their situation. I don't understand, Alex said. If humans weren't extinct, where have they been all this time? Marcus's face was grim, hidden, scattered, surviving. The war that supposedly wiped us out was actually just the beginning. When the allied species realized they couldn't defeat us conventionally, they'd resorted to biological warfare and historical erasure. They entered a massive chamber filled with holographic displays showing star charts and data streams. Victor was accessing the Galactic Union's networks, filtering through thousands of years of history. Commander, the AI announced, I have located references to 17 potential human enclaves in restricted sectors. Additionally, I have identified genetic markers similar to Alex's in populations across 23 worlds. Marcus nodded. They didn't kill us all. They just made us forget who we were. Alex stared at the displays, a strange feeling of connection growing within him. What happens now? Now. Marcus turned to him, determination burning in his eyes. Now we remind the galaxy why they feared us, and why they should have finished the job when they had the chance. Outside, the standoff continued as more Union ships arrived. But inside the ancient warship, a plan was forming. A plan that would shake the foundations of the galaxy and rewrite history once again. The command center of the TCS Nemesis buzzed with activity as more crew members awakened from their long sleep. Commander Marcus stood at the central holographic display, studying the positions of the Union fleet that surrounded them. They're bringing in reinforcements, he noted, his voice calm despite the tension. Victor, what's our status? Main weapons at 62% capacity, the eye replied. Drive systems fully operational. Defensive shields at 87%. The remaining cryopods are being revived sequentially. Alex watched in amazement as the ancient warship came fully to life around him. Over the past 12 hours, he had seen technologies that contradicted everything he'd been taught about human capabilities. The ship's engines operated on principles unknown to modern science, and its weapons could allegedly destroy entire planets. Why did the Union lie about humans? Alex asked. Why erase your history? Marcus turned to him, his weathered face solemn. Fear. Humans were different from the other species. We adapted faster, fought harder, and never gave up. When the Great Alliance realized they couldn't beat us in a fair fight, they turned to biological warfare. He gestured to a nearby screen showing historical recordings. They engineered a plague that targeted human DNA. Billions died before we found a partial defense. Those who survived scattered, some to hidden colonies, others blending into alien populations, diluting their genetics over generations. Like me, Alex said quietly. Yes, your ancestors survived by hiding their humanity. Marcus's eyes narrowed. The Alliance then began the greatest cover-up in galactic history. They destroyed human records, rewrote historical accounts, and quarantined Earth, claiming we had destroyed ourselves. A crew member approached Marcus with a datapad. Commander, we've finished analyzing the Union databases. We've identified at least 12 worlds with significant human-descended populations. They don't even know what they are, Marcus said. Just like you didn't, Alex. Alex felt a strange mix of emotions, anger at the deception, but also a growing sense of belonging he had never experienced before. So what's the plan? You can't fight the entire Union with one ship. Marcus smiled for the first time. Who said we only have one ship? In the Grand Council chamber, Admiral Brock delivered his report to the assembled leaders of the Galactic Union. The human warship is fully operational, he stated grimly. They've ignored all demands to stand down and return our citizen. Instead, they're broadcasting some kind of coded signal across multiple sectors. Councillor Trell leaned forward. What kind of signal? Our analysts can't decode it, but it appears to be activating dormant receivers throughout Union space. General Kroll slammed his tentacle on the table. This is exactly what I warned about. One ship becomes two, becomes an invasion force. We must strike now, with everything we have. Administrator Lorne's mechanical eye wavered as he processed the information. The human ship possesses weapons that could decimate our fleet. If we attack and fail, we risk escalation. There's something else, Brock added reluctantly. Our scientists have analyzed the genetic records of citizens from worlds near the old human territories. The results suggest that human DNA is present in up to 6% of our population. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Impossible, Kroll protested. It's been diluted over generations, Brock continued, but it's there. The humans weren't completely wiped out. They were absorbed. Trell's ancient face showed no surprise. The purge was never as complete as we pretended. And now the truth threatens to unravel 2,000 years of carefully constructed history. What do the humans want? Lorne asked. They've made no demands yet, Brock replied. But given their history, they'll want revenge, Kroll finished. Trell shook her head slowly. No, they'll want justice. Back on the Nemesis, Victor had made a breakthrough. Commander, I've located the coordinates from the emergency protocol archives, the AI announced. If the fleet's final fallback plan was executed, there should be a hidden staging area at these coordinates. Marcus studied the star chart. That's deep in the uncharted regions now. Can we get there? Affirmative, though the Union fleet will attempt to stop us. Marcus turned to his tactical officer. Prepare for jump. We're going to make a run for it. Alex stepped forward. Wait, what about the people like me? The ones with human ancestry who don't know their history. We'll come back for them, Marcus promised. But first, we need strength. The bridge crew took their positions as alert signals blared. On the main screen, they could see the Union fleet tightening its formation. Incoming transmission from Admiral Brock, Victor announced. Brock's image appeared on screen. Commander Marcus, this is your final warning. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded, or we will open fire. Marcus stood tall. Admiral, we have no quarrel with you personally, but we will not surrender a ship that represents the last free legacy of our people. We're leaving. Stand aside or face the consequences. You're outnumbered 20-1, Brock replied. Marcus smiled grimly. Quantity has never been a match for quality. Victor, execute jump sequence. The transmission cut off as the massive engines of the Nemesis roared to life. The Union ships immediately opened fire, energy beams striking the warship's shields. Shields holding at 83%, Victor reported. Jump calculations complete. Return fire, Marcus ordered. Targeted disabling shots only. The Nemesis fired, and 3 Union ships immediately lost power, drifting helplessly. The precision of the ancient weapons stunned the Union fleet, creating momentary confusion. Now, Marcus commanded, jump. Space seemed to fold around the massive warship as it engaged its faster-than-light drive, technology far beyond current Union capabilities. In an instant, the Nemesis vanished, leaving the stunned Union fleet behind. The journey to the coordinates took 3 days. Alex spent the time learning about true human history from the ship's archives. He discovered stories of human courage, innovation, and determination that had been erased from galactic records. For the first time in his life, he felt pride in his heritage, however diluted it might be. When they finally arrived, the Nemesis dropped out of jump space near a dense nebula that didn't appear on any modern star charts. "Sensors show nothing," reported the tactical officer. "Just gas and cosmic dust." Marcus nodded. "Victor, transmit the legacy authentication codes." The AI sent out a signal, a complex pattern of energy pulses directed into the heart of the nebula. For several long moments, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the nebula began to shift. What had appeared to be random cosmic dust started moving with purpose, revealing a massive structure hidden within, a space station of incredible size. "Authentication accepted," came a new artificial voice over the comm system. "Welcome, TCS Nemesis. The Legacy Fleet awaits your command." As the nebula continued to disperse, Alex gasped. Hidden within the cosmic clouds were not one or two ships, but hundreds, an entire fleet of human warships in perfect preservation, maintained by automated systems for 2 millennia, waiting for the call to arms. Marcus placed a hand on Alex's shoulder. "Now you see why they tried to erase us from history. This isn't just our legacy, Alex. It's yours too. And with it, we're going to reclaim our place in the galaxy." The ancient fleet began powering up, thousands of lights flickering to life across the massive vessels. After 2,000 years of hiding and waiting, humanity's legacy was about to return to a galaxy that had tried to forget them. And this time, they would not be denied. News of the Nemesis escape spread quickly through the Galactic Union. On dozens of worlds, people gathered around information terminals, hungry for any details about the legendary human warship. The official Union broadcasts downplayed the incident, describing it as an archaeological curiosity that posed no real threat. But underground networks told a different story. In the worker districts of New Centauri, the largest industrial world in the Union, factory laborer Tam watched an illegal broadcast with his friends. The grainy footage showed the massive human ship vanishing into jump space after disabling 3 Union vessels with surgical precision. "They say it's just one ship," whispered Dora, Tam's coworker. "But why is the council calling an emergency session?" Tam said nothing, but his hand unconsciously touched the old pendant he wore, a family heirloom with strange symbols that no one could translate, symbols that looked remarkably similar to the markings on the hull of the Nemesis. In the council chambers, the emergency session had devolved into chaos. "We must mobilize the entire fleet," General Kroll demanded, his tentacles lashing about in agitation. "If the humans find more of their kind, or worse, more of their ships." "And go where?" Administrator Lorne interrupted. "We have no idea where they've gone. The tracking systems couldn't follow their jump technology." Councillor Trell sat quietly, watching her colleagues panic. When she finally spoke, her voice cut through the noise like a blade. "The humans have always been among us," she said. "Our ancestors didn't just fail to eradicate them. They deliberately preserved some." All eyes turned to her. "What are you saying?" Kroll demanded. "I'm saying that certain factions within the old alliance recognize the value of human adaptability. Instead of killing them all, they captured some, altered their appearance over generations through genetic manipulation, and integrated them into our society as workers, soldiers, and engineers." Lorne's mechanical eye whirred rapidly. "This is treason. You speak of classified information. Information that will soon become irrelevant." Trell replied calmly. "Because if that ship is broadcasting the truth to those with human ancestry, the carefully constructed lies of the past 2,000 years will crumble." "How many?" Admiral Brock asked quietly. "How many potential humans are living among us?" Trell's ancient eyes met his. "Enough to change everything." Aboard the Nemesis, Commander Marcus stood before the assembled officers of the newly awakened Legacy Fleet. 20 ship captains had been revived, each commanding vessels that represented the pinnacle of human military technology from 2 millennia ago. "Our mission is not vengeance," Marcus told them, his voice firm. "We were soldiers sworn to protect humanity, not to destroy others. The galaxy has changed while we slept. Our enemies are now the established power, and our people." He paused. "Our people don't even know who they are." Captain Rivera of the battleship Thunderchild stepped forward. "What exactly is the plan, Commander?" "We have 21 ships against thousands. Quality over quantity," Marcus replied with a slight smile. "And we won't be fighting alone. Victor, show them." The AI displayed a holographic map of the galaxy, with hundreds of points illuminated across Union space. "These are the responses to our awakening signal," Victor explained. "Each point represents a receiver activated by descendants of humans who escaped the purge. Many don't understand what they're feeling, but the subconscious recognition is there. Genetic memory encoded by our scientists as a failsafe." "So what's the next step?" asked Captain Ortiz of the carrier Defiance. Marcus nodded to Alex, who stepped forward nervously. "We broadcast the truth," Alex said, "not just to those with human DNA, but to everyone in the Union. We show them how their history was stolen and rewritten. And then," Marcus continued, "we head to Earth." In his small apartment on New Centauri, Tam couldn't sleep. The pendant around his neck had grown uncommonly warm after the news broadcasts, almost as if it were alive. He held it in his palm, studying the strange symbols that his grandmother had told him were just decorative patterns. A soft chime from his information terminal drew his attention. The screen showed an incoming transmission on an unusual frequency. Curious, Tam accepted it. The screen filled with the face of a human male, similar to Tam's own species but with subtle differences. "My name is Commander Marcus of the Terran combat ship Nemesis," the figure said. "If you're receiving this message, you carry within you the legacy of Earth, of humanity. What you've been told about your history is a lie." Tam sat transfixed as images began to play. Scenes of a blue-green planet called Earth, of human achievements and civilization, and finally of the great betrayal, the biological weapons, the scattered survivors, the systematic erasure of human history. "Your ancestors survived by hiding, by changing, by forgetting," Marcus continued. "But the time for hiding is over. We have returned to reclaim our legacy and to free those who descend from our people. You are not alone." As the message ended, Tam's pendant suddenly split open, revealing a small data crystal that glowed with inner light. Somehow, he knew exactly what to do with it. Similar scenes played out across hundreds of worlds as the Legacy Fleet's message spread through the Union. Devices hidden for generations activated, revealing the truth to those with human ancestry. Some rejected it, but many felt an instant connection, an explanation for the feeling of difference they had carried their whole lives. The Union authorities scrambled to block the transmissions, but the human technology was too advanced, bypassing their security as if it didn't exist. In orbit around New Centauri, the Union cruiser Vigilance detected an unusual energy surge from the planet's surface. "Captain," the sensor officer reported, "we're picking up unauthorized transmissions from multiple points on the surface. And there's something else." He hesitated, some kind of energy pattern forming in the upper atmosphere. Captain Duran frowned. "Show me." The main screen displayed what appeared to be random energy fluctuations across the planet. But as they watched, the pattern began to organize itself, forming a massive network. "What in the void is that?" Duran whispered. His question was answered when the energy network suddenly pulsed, sending a focused beam into space, directly toward the coordinates where the Nemesis had disappeared. "It's a beacon," the science officer realized with horror. "They're calling the humans here." In the hidden base station of the Legacy Fleet, Alex watched as more signals appeared on the galactic map. "They're responding," he said in awe. "Hundreds of them." Marcus nodded. "Each signal contains data, the locations of hidden caches, the identities of those with significant human DNA, the position of Union military assets." He turned to the assembled captains. "We now have the intelligence we need for the next phase." "What about Earth?" Alex asked. "You said we were going there." "We are," Marcus confirmed. "According to these signals, the Union maintains a quarantine fleet around Earth. They claim it's to contain the plague that destroyed humanity, but our sources indicate they're actually guarding something else." "What?" Marcus's eyes gleamed with determination. "The rest of our fleet. The ships that were protecting Earth when the final attack came. The Union couldn't destroy them, so they trapped them in a temporal stasis field." Alex stared at him. "How many ships?" "Hundreds," Marcus replied, "including the TCS Avalon, our flagship and the most powerful human vessel ever built." On the main display, a new alert appeared as Victor processed incoming data. "Commander," the AI announced, "the Union has dispatched their main battle fleet to Earth. They appear to know our intentions." Marcus smiled grimly. "Then we'll meet them there. It's time the galaxy remembered why they feared us, and why they should have respected us instead." The captains returned to their ships as the Legacy fleet prepared for jump. Alex found himself assigned as Marcus's aide, his unique position as a bridge between old humanity and the new galaxy making him invaluable. As the Nemesis led the fleet into jump space, Alex felt a strange sense of destiny. He was part of something momentous, the resurrection of a people long thought dead, but who had merely been waiting for the right moment to return. The Galactic Union had trembled at the awakening of one human warship. They were about to face hundreds. Earth hung in space like a forgotten jewel, its blue oceans and green continents visible beneath swirling white clouds. Once the cradle of humanity, it had been under quarantine for 2,000 years, surrounded by a ring of Union monitoring stations and defense platforms. The official story claimed the planet remained contaminated by the plague that had destroyed human civilization. It was a lie. Admiral Jack stood on the bridge of the Union Defender, the flagship of the largest battle fleet ever assembled by the Galactic Union. 300 warships formed a defensive sphere around Earth, weapons primed and shields at maximum power. "Any sign of them?" Jax asked his sensor officer. "Nothing yet, Admiral. Our long-range scanners are at maximum sensitivity." Jax nodded tightly. The Council had been clear: stop the human fleet at all costs. The stakes had never been higher. If the humans reached Earth and discovered what was hidden there. "Admiral," the sensor officer suddenly called out. "Multiple jump signatures detected. They're here." Space rippled as the Legacy fleet emerged from jump space, 21 warships facing off against hundreds. At their head was the Nemesis, its massive form dwarfing most of the Union vessels. "They're outnumbered 15 to 1, Jax observed. "This will be over quickly. Open fire." The Union fleet launched a devastating barrage, energy weapons and missiles streaking across space toward the human ships. But instead of attempting to dodge or return fire, the human vessels formed a tight formation. "What are they doing?" Jax wondered aloud. His question was answered when a blinding light erupted from the Nemesis, spreading outward to encompass the entire human fleet. When the light faded, the Legacy fleet was still there, completely unharmed. "Impossible," Jax breathed. No shield technology could withstand that kind of firepower. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the human commander." Marcus's face appeared on the main screen, calm and determined. "This is Commander Marcus of the Legacy fleet. We have not come to destroy you, but to reclaim what is ours. Stand down your weapons and withdraw from Earth orbit." "You're outnumbered and outgunned," Jax replied. "Surrender now, and your crews will be treated fairly." Marcus smiled slightly. "Look again, Admiral." Jax turned to his sensor officer, who was staring at his screen in shock. "Sir, we're detecting new energy signatures, hundreds of them, all around Earth." On the main display, points of light began to appear around the planet as dormant systems activated. The stasis field that had contained Earth for 2 millennia was failing, segment by segment. And rising from the planet's surface were ships, hundreds of massive warships, their designs similar to the Nemesis, but even larger. At their center was a vessel of staggering proportions, easily 5 times the size of any ship in either fleet. The TCS Avalon, Marcus explained, our flagship, along with the home fleet, 300 vessels that were protecting Earth when your ancestors deployed the stasis field. They've been waiting, frozen in time, for this moment. Jax felt the blood drain from his face. This is impossible. No, Admiral. This was inevitable. On the bridge of the Nemesis, Alex watched in awe as the great ships rose from Earth. He had never imagined such power could exist. Each vessel radiated energy readings that dwarfed anything in the modern Union fleet. They're beautiful, he whispered. Marcus nodded. The last and greatest achievements of human engineering. Now, watch what happens next. On a dozen Union worlds, the effects of the Legacy Fleet's message had taken hold. Those with human ancestry, whether they knew it or not, had been activated by the coded signals. And now, they acted. On New Centauri, Tan led a group of workers to the main communications array. None of them fully understood why they felt compelled to act, but the knowledge unlocked by their genetic memory gave them purpose. Set the transmitter to these frequencies, Tam instructed, the information flowing into his mind from ancestors he had never known. We need to broadcast what's happening at Earth to every world in the Union. Union security forces surrounded the facility, but they hesitated to fire on civilians. And there were so many, thousands of people moving with common purpose across the planet. Similar scenes played out on world after world as those with human DNA awakened to their heritage and rose up. They didn't fight with weapons, but with information, breaking through the censorship that had hidden the truth for millennia. In the council chamber, Councillor Trell watched the feeds from Earth with a mixture of sadness and relief. It's over, she told her colleagues. The lie we've maintained for 2,000 years has finally collapsed. We can still fight, General Kroll insisted. Our combined fleets cannot match their technology. Lorne interrupted, his mechanical eye analyzing the data streams. The human vessels emerging from Earth show power signatures beyond anything we possess. If they wish to destroy us, they could do so with ease. Then why haven't they? Kroll demanded. Because, Trell said quietly, despite everything we've done to them, humans were never the monsters we portrayed them as. Back at Earth, the standoff continued. The awakened home fleet had surrounded the Union forces, but had yet to fire a shot. What happens now is up to you, Admiral, Marcus told Jax. We could destroy your fleet, but that's not our goal. We want peace, but a true peace based on honesty and equality, not one built on lies and genocide. Jax looked at the overwhelming force arrayed against him. His orders had been clear, fight to the last ship. But that would mean the pointless deaths of thousands under his command. What are your terms? He finally asked. Simple. Independence for Earth and its colonies, recognition of human rights for those of human descent throughout the galaxy, and a full accounting of the crimes committed against our people. Jax hesitated, then nodded slowly. I will relay your terms to the Council. As the Union fleet began to withdraw to a safe distance, Alex turned to Marcus. Is it really over? No, Marcus replied. It's just beginning. Now comes the hard part, building a new relationship with the galaxy that tried to erase us. 3 months later, Alex stood on the surface of Earth, breathing its air and feeling its gravity. The great city of New Terra rose around him, built by automated systems that had waited patiently for humanity's return. The negotiations with the Union continued, but already much had changed. Across dozens of worlds, those with human ancestry were discovering their heritage, learning the truth about their past. Some chose to come to Earth, while others remained where they were, building bridges between the two civilizations. Commander Marcus approached, now wearing the formal uniform of the restored Terran Command. The Council has agreed to our final terms, he said. Humanity is officially recognized as a sovereign power again. And the home fleet? Alex asked. Will remain as our defense force, but we've agreed to share some of our technology in exchange for reparations. It's a new beginning." Alex looked up at the sky, where the massive form of the Avalon could be seen in orbit, a symbol of humanity's resurrection. "What about me?" he asked. "I'm not fully human. I don't fully belong anywhere now." Marcus smiled. "That's where you're wrong. You're exactly what humanity has always been, adaptive, resilient, a bridge between different worlds." He handed Alex a small insignia. "The Council of Captains has approved your commission. The Nemesis needs a new first officer, someone who understands both worlds." Alex took the insignia, feeling its weight in his hand. It represented not just a position, but a future, one where humanity and the galaxy could perhaps learn to coexist. "The galaxy trembled when we returned," Marcus said, looking out at the rebuilt city. "But not everything that trembles breaks. Sometimes it just changes." Above them, more ships descended through the atmosphere, vessels bringing humans and their descendants back to their ancestral home. After 2,000 years of exile and forgetting, humanity had reclaimed its legacy, not through destruction, but through the very adaptability and determination that had made their enemies fear them so long ago. The ancient warships had awakened, and with them, a new chapter in galactic history had begun. Captain Tom Reed stood on the bridge of the HSS Relic, his weathered hands resting on the metal railing that had been polished by 2 centuries of human touch. The old battleship hummed around him, its sounds as familiar to him as his own heartbeat. Lights blinked on consoles that were built when humanity first reached for the stars. The ship was old, but it was still alive. "Final systems check complete, Captain," said Lieutenant Jane Foster from her station. "All green for our museum journey." Reed nodded but didn't speak. This would be the Relic's final voyage. A short, simple trip to the museum planet where it would sit forever, a reminder of wars long past. The thought made his chest tight. He had served on ships like this one when he was young. Modern ships were faster, sleeker, and packed with new tech, but none of them felt as solid as the Relic. "Quite a thing, isn't it?" asked Chief Engineer Mark Wilson as he joined Reed at the railing. 200 years old and still flying. They don't build them like this anymore." "No, they don't," Reed agreed. "New ships break if you look at them wrong." Wilson laughed. "That's why they gave us this job. Nobody else wanted to babysit an old ship on its last run." Reed looked around at his small crew. Most were young cadets getting their first taste of space, mixed with officers close to retirement like himself. Nobody important. Nobody the fleet would miss if things went wrong. "Captain," called the young communications officer, "we're getting a signal. It's a distress call." Reed straightened up. "Put it through." The main screen flickered to life, showing a man with dust on his face and fear in his eyes. Behind him, people ran back and forth as alarms blared. "This is Governor Bell of Haven Colony. We are under attack. Multiple ships have entered our system. They've destroyed our orbital defenses and are threatening to bomb the surface if we don't surrender. We need immediate help." Reed stepped forward. "Governor, this is Captain Reed of the HSS Relic. We are picking up your distress call. What's your situation?" Relief flooded the man's face, then confusion as he saw the old-style uniforms and bridge. Is that a Heritage-class battleship? Are you from a history program?" "We're real enough," Reed said firmly. "And we might be the only help you're going to get." "Who's attacking you?" "They call themselves the Vex. 6 ships, maybe more. They've been hitting frontier colonies for months. Please, we have 10,000 civilians here." Wilson leaned close to Reed. "Haven Colony is 2 days away at our best speed. We're the only ship anywhere near them." Reed nodded and turned back to the screen. "Hold tight, Governor. We're changing course. The Relic is coming." After the call ended, Foster approached Reed. "Sir, with respect, the Relic is headed for decommissioning. We're not combat ready. We should call Fleet Command and let them handle this." By the time fleet gets there, Haven will be ash, Reed said. He tapped a button on his chair. Open a channel to Stellar Council headquarters. The screen changed to show a sleek, modern office where a man in a perfectly tailored suit sat at a desk that probably cost more than Reed's yearly pay. Captain Reed, said Council Representative Davis with a thin smile. Is the museum piece giving you trouble already? Reed ignored the jab. We've received a distress call from Haven Colony. They're under attack by Vex ships. We're the closest vessel and are changing course to respond. Davis's smile vanished. You will do no such thing. The relic is scheduled for decommissioning. It's a flying antique, not a warship. With respect, sir, there are civilians in danger, and sending in your outdated hulk won't help them. Davis cut in. You'd just be adding your names to the casualty list. Continue to the museum as ordered. We'll dispatch proper ships to investigate. Proper ships that won't arrive for a week, Reed said, his voice hard. Haven doesn't have that long. Davis leaned forward. Listen carefully, Captain. That ship belongs in a museum, not scattered across space as debris, which is exactly what will happen if you engage hostile forces. Your weapon systems have been deactivated for decades. Your shields are minimal. Your engines are from the last century. Sir, we can't just. That's an order, Captain. Stay on course for the museum planet. Davis out. The screen went dark. Silence fell over the bridge. Reed looked at his crew, some confused, some angry, all waiting for his decision. Navigation, he said finally. Plot a course for Haven Colony. Best possible speed. Foster stepped forward. Sir, our orders. I heard the orders, Reed said, and I'm choosing to ignore them. He looked around the bridge. I won't force any of you to come. Anyone who wants to use the escape pods before we change course has my permission. No one moved. Wilson broke into a wide grin. Well, I've been wanting to see what this old girl can really do. Reed nodded and sat in the captain's chair, feeling the worn leather conform to him. Set course for Haven. And Mr. Wilson, I suggest you start looking at those deactivated weapon systems. I have a feeling we might need them. As the massive ship turned slowly in space, Reed felt something he hadn't felt in years. Purpose. The relic had been built for war. It had protected human colonies when humanity was still new to the stars. Maybe it had one more fight left in it. All hands, he announced shipwide. This is the captain. We are responding to a distress call from Haven Colony. This mission is against direct orders. Anyone not comfortable with that should speak now. He paused. This old ship was built to protect people. That's what we're going to do. Read out. The ship hummed louder as its ancient engines powered up to full. Beneath the floor, machinery that had been dormant for decades came to life. The relic moved forward, accelerating toward danger while the stars streaked by outside. Reed watched his crew work with new energy. They had been given a ship no one wanted for a mission no one cared about. Now they had a chance to matter. They think we're just a museum piece, he said quietly. Let's go show them what history can do. The HSS relic dropped out of faster-than-light travel with a shudder that ran through its old metal hull. Captain Reed gripped his chair as the view screen showed the Haven system. Even from this distance, he could see the flashes of weapons fire around the colony planet. Scan complete, Captain, said Lieutenant Foster, her eyes fixed on her screen. 6 Vex warships in orbit around Haven. Their design is, I've never seen anything like it. Reed moved to her station. The ships on the screen were sleek and curved, almost beautiful in their deadly design. They looked like predators next to the blocky human buildings of the colony. No records in our database, Foster continued. These must be a new class. New to us, anyway, Reed said. Our records are as outdated as everything else on this ship. Wilson entered the bridge, his hands stained with engine grease. Captain, I've been looking at our weapon systems. They're not as deactivated as the Council thinks. Reed raised an eyebrow. Explain. When they converted the relic for ceremonial duty, They didn't remove the weapons. That would have been too much work. They just disconnected them and covered the ports. Wilson grinned. I've been reconnecting some things. Can we fight? Reed asked simply. Wilson's grin faded. Maybe. The main energy cannons are still offline, but I've got the point defense systems working. And there's something else. The old railgun. The what? Asked a young cadet. Kinetic weapon, Reed explained. Fires solid metal at high speed. They were replaced by energy weapons centuries ago. But it still works, Wilson insisted. And it doesn't need the main power grid. It has its own generators. Reed nodded slowly. Get it ready. He turned to the communications officer. Hail the colony. Governor Bell appeared on screen, looking worse than before. His face was blackened with smoke, and blood ran from a cut on his forehead. Captain Reed, thank God you're here. The Vex have destroyed our orbital platforms and bombed our main city. They're demanding our surrender. What do they want? Reed asked. Our resources, our people. Bell looked away briefly as something exploded nearby. They've been systematically hitting frontier colonies, taking what they want, and disappearing before the fleet responds. Foster moved closer to Reed. Sir, I'm checking the official reports. There's no mention of these attacks in any fleet communications. That's because no one is reporting them, Bell said bitterly. We've sent dozens of messages. The Council ignores them. Reed's jaw tightened. We're here now, Governor. We'll do what we can. As the communication ended, the young radar officer called out, Captain, one of the Vex ships is breaking orbit. It's heading toward us. Battle stations, Reed ordered. What little we have anyway. The bridge crew moved with purpose despite their limited options. The relic might be old, but its systems were built to be operated in combat. They're hailing us, the communications officer said. Reed straightened his uniform. On screen. The alien that appeared was humanoid, but with gray skin and multiple ridges on its skull. It wore an ornate uniform that seemed designed more for show than function. I am Admiral Crix of the Vex expansion fleet, the alien said in perfect English. Identify yourself. Captain Tom Reed of the human stellar ship Relic. You are attacking a human colony without provocation. Withdraw your forces immediately. Crix stared at Reed for a moment, then began to laugh. The sound was unpleasant, like grinding metal. Is this truly what Earth sends to defend its colonies? One ship, and such a ship. Crix moved aside to show others on his bridge. They were all looking at screens showing the relic. Some were laughing, others pointing. Perhaps we should capture it intact, Crix continued, as a museum piece to demonstrate how far behind humans have fallen. Reed kept his face blank. This is your only warning, Admiral. Leave this system. Crix's amusement vanished. You are either brave or stupid, human. I command 6 warships of the latest design. Your relic would make a fine addition to our collection of conquered species artifacts. The screen went dark. They're powering weapons, Foster reported. Reed turned to Wilson. Is that railgun ready? Not yet. 15 minutes, maybe less. We may not have 15 minutes. Reed looked at the tactical display. Helm, bring us around. Keep our strongest armor toward their ships. Foster, what can you tell me about their weapons? Foster studied her readings. Energy-based, highly focused. Our old shields aren't designed for that kind of attack. So we'll take some hits, Reed said calmly. This ship was built to take hits. The first blast from the Vex ship hit the Relic's side. The whole ship rocked. Alarms blared. Damage report, Reed ordered. Outer hull breached on deck 7, reported a crewman. Emergency bulkheads holding. Shields at 60%. One hit did that much damage. Reed asked. Their weapons are designed to cut through modern shields, Foster said. But they're actually less effective against our physical armor. Our hull is 10 times thicker than modern ships. Reed nodded. So we're old-fashioned. Let's use that. Helm, bring us closer to Haven's atmosphere. The relic turned slowly, its engines straining as it moved toward the planet. The Vex ship followed, firing repeatedly. Each hit shook the relic, but the old ship kept moving. "What are you planning, sir?" Foster asked. "Modern ships rely on computers and targeting systems. Let's see how they handle something less predictable." Reed turned to the helm officer. "When I give the word, cut all power except life support and artificial gravity. Make it look like they disabled us." The crew exchanged glances, but no one questioned the order. The Vex ship was closing fast, still firing. The relic shuddered with each hit. "Hull breach on deck 4, reported a crewman. "Automatic repair systems responding." Wilson looked up in surprise. "The repair robots are working. Those haven't been used in 100 years. "This old girl still has some tricks," Reed said. "Status of the railgun." 7 minutes, Wilson promised. Reed watched the tactical display. The Vex ship was almost in position. "Now, helm. Cut power." The lights on the bridge dimmed as the ship's engines went silent. The relic began to drift, seeming dead in space. On the screens, they watched the Vex ship slow its approach, clearly cautious despite its superior firepower. "They're scanning us," Foster said quietly. Reed nodded. "Let them think they've won. Wilson, get to that railgun. The moment it's ready, I want to fire." As Wilson hurried off the bridge, Reed watched the Vex ship draw closer, circling like a predator around wounded prey. "Admiral Crix is hailing us again," said the communications officer. Reed straightened. "Let's hear what he has to say about our ancient ship now." Admiral Crix's face filled the screen, his gray features pulled into what might have been a smile. Behind him, his crew worked at stations far more advanced than those on the relic. "Captain Reed," Crix said smoothly, "it seems your ancient vessel couldn't withstand even our warning shots. How disappointing." Reed kept his face neutral. "We've suffered some damage. Indeed, I can see that your power systems are failing. Allow me to make you an offer. Surrender your vessel, and I will spare your crew. They can join the other humans from the colony as our workers." From a side console, Foster signaled to Reed. The message on her screen read, "Railgun at 90% power." "That's generous of you, Admiral," Reed said, stalling for time. "But I'm curious, why attack these colonies? What have they done to you?" Crix waved a hand dismissively. "Nothing. They simply have what we need, and your stellar council is too busy with politics to defend its outer territories properly." He leaned closer to the screen. "Did you know that some of your own officials have been paid to look the other way? We've been raiding these colonies for months." Foster's eyes widened as she checked her console again. She typed quickly, searching records. He's right. Reports of attacks were filed but never acted on. Reed felt cold anger rising inside him. "And you think that makes these people fair game?" "I think," Crix said, "that those who cannot defend what they have do not deserve to keep it. You have 1 minute to surrender, Captain, or we will destroy what remains of your ship." The screen went dark. Reed turned to his crew. "Status of the railgun." "Ready to fire," came Wilson's voice over the comm. "But we only have enough power for 1 shot before we need to recharge." "Then we make it count." Reed looked at the tactical display. "Their ship is holding position about 5 kilometers off our port side. Perfect target." Foster looked up from her analysis. "Sir, I've been studying their ship. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons and missiles, modern threats. But the railgun fires a solid tungsten rod. Their shields might not be calibrated for that kind of attack." Reed nodded. "A very old trick that might just work against very new defenses." He turned to the weapons officer, a young cadet who looked nervous but determined. "Target their propulsion systems. We want to disable, not destroy if possible." "Aye, Captain," the cadet responded, hands flying over the targeting controls. "All hands, prepare for reactivation of all systems on my mark." Reed announced shipwide. "We'll only get one chance at this." The crew tensed as the seconds ticked by. On the view screen, the Vex ship hovered, its sleek form gleaming in the light of Haven's sun. "Their minute is up," Foster said quietly. Reed nodded. "They expect us to surrender or die. Let's show them a third option." He stood up. "Mark." Power surged back through the relic. Lights blazed to full brightness. Engines roared to life. And deep within the ship, the ancient railgun, a massive electromagnetic accelerator, powered up completely. "Fire," Reed ordered. The entire ship shook as the railgun launched its projectile, a solid tungsten rod 3 meters long and half a meter wide. It crossed the space between the ships in less than a second, traveling at an appreciable fraction of the speed of light. The Vex ship had no time to react. The rod struck its propulsion section, passing through shields calibrated for energy weapons as if they weren't there. The kinetic energy released on impact was catastrophic. The Vex ship didn't explode dramatically. Instead, it simply came apart, breaking into large pieces that tumbled away from each other in silence. The bridge crew of the relic stared in shock. "Direct hit," the weapons officer reported unnecessarily. "I didn't." Reed started, then cleared his throat. "I didn't mean to destroy them completely." Wilson's voice came over the comm, sounding equally surprised. "The railgun was more powerful than I calculated. These old systems were built to hit hard." Foster checked her sensors. "Captain, the other Vex ships are breaking orbit around Haven. They're heading this way." Reed took a deep breath. So much for the element of surprise. How long until the railgun can fire again? 20 minutes minimum, Wilson replied. "The power systems need time to recharge." "We don't have 20 minutes, Foster warned. 5 Vex ships incoming. ETA 8 minutes. The communications officer called out. "Governor Bell is hailing us from the surface." Bell appeared on screen, his face showing a mix of shock and hope. "Captain Reed, one of the Vex ships just disappeared." "What happened?" "We happened," Reed said simply. "But we've got more company coming." "How are your people doing down there?" "We've taken heavy damage to the main settlement, but most civilians made it to the underground shelters. If you can keep the Vex busy, we might be able to get some of our own defenses back online." "We'll do what we can," Reed promised. "Read out." As the communication ended, Reed turned to Foster. "Options." She studied the tactical display. "The railgun is our best weapon, but it's not ready. Our point defense systems won't do much against their warships. We could try to run, but we'd never outpace those modern ships." Reed nodded, thinking. "But we might outthink them." He moved to the center of the bridge. "Wilson, are those repair robots still working?" "Yes, sir. Old but functional." "Good. I need you to send them to the outer hull sections. Have them remove the cosmetic plates covering our old weapon ports. All of them." Wilson sounded confused. "But most of those weapons don't work anymore." "The Vex don't know that," Reed said. "And I have another idea. Foster, what can you tell me about how the Vex communicate with each other?" Foster checked her readings, standard subspace frequencies, but with heavy encryption. "Can we jam those frequencies?" She thought for a moment. "Not with our modern systems, but the Relic has old-style broadband jammers. They're not selective like modern jammers. They just flood all frequencies with noise." "Perfect," Reed said. "Wilson, get those jammers online too." As the crew hurried to carry out his orders, Reed watched the approaching Vex ships on the tactical display. They were moving in a perfect formation, coordinating their approach with precision. "They rely too much on their technology," he murmured. "Time to introduce some chaos." The repair robots worked quickly, removing plates to expose weapon ports all around the Relic's hull. Many contained non-functional or disconnected weapons, but from the outside, they looked threatening enough. "Jammers ready," Foster reported. "Activate them," Reed ordered. "And bring us about. Head straight for the Lid Vex ship." The relic turned, its engines pushing the massive old ship forward with surprising speed. On the view screen, the 5 Vex ships suddenly broke their perfect formation, their movements becoming erratic. "The jammers are working," Foster said. "They can't communicate with each other." Reed allowed himself a small smile. "Good. Let's see how they handle things when they have to think for themselves." The old battleship accelerated toward the enemy, its exposed weapon ports looking like the bared teeth of a predator from another age. The relic charged forward, its massive hull cutting through space like a battering ram from another age. The 5 Vex ships scattered, clearly confused by the sudden aggression from a ship they had considered harmless. "They're trying to regroup," Foster said, watching the tactical display. "But our jammers are keeping them from coordinating their attacks." Reed nodded. "Each captain has to make decisions alone now. Let's see how good they are without their fancy networks." 2 of the Vex ships moved to intercept the relic, while the other 3 tried to circle around behind. "They're targeting our engines," the sensor officer called out. "Helm, evasive pattern Delta," Reed ordered. "Wilson, how are we doing on that railgun?" 15 more minutes, Captain," Wilson replied from engineering. "I'm trying to reroute power to speed up the charging process." The relic shuddered as the first enemy shots hit its hull. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. "Damage to outer hull sections 12 through 15, reported a crewman. "No breach yet." Reed studied the tactical display. "Their weapons are powerful, but they're designed to cut through energy shields, not solid metal. Our old armor is buying us time." The relic turned hard, its old engines straining against the forces. One of the Vex ships couldn't adjust quickly enough and passed close alongside. "Point defense batteries, fire at will," Reed commanded. The small defensive guns that Wilson had reactivated opened fire, peppering the passing Vex ship with projectiles. Most bounced off its shields, but a few found weak points. "Minor damage to their sensor array," Foster reported with satisfaction. "Captain," called the communications officer, "one of the Vex ships is hailing us." "On screen," Reed ordered. A different Vex commander appeared, looking far less confident than Crix had been. "Human vessel, you have destroyed Admiral Crix's ship through some trickery. Surrender now, or we will." Reed cut the transmission. "They're trying to distract us while they position their ships. Foster, any chance we can use our jammers more selectively?" Foster thought for a moment. "The old systems aren't precise, but we might be able to create a directional effect. Focus the jamming on 4 ships but leave one able to communicate." Reed smiled. Confusion in the ranks. "Do it." As Foster worked on the jammers, the relic took more hits. The bridge shook violently, and a console exploded in sparks. "Hull breach on deck 6, shouted a crewman. "Emergency bulkheads activated." "Casualties?" Reed asked. 3 injured, no fatalities. Damage control teams responding." Reed gripped his chair as another hit rocked the ship. "We can't keep this up forever." "Wilson, update on the railgun." 10 minutes, Captain. "The power systems are handling more than they were designed for." One of the younger officers looked worried. "Sir, even with the railgun, we can only take out 1 more ship. That leaves 4. Reed didn't answer immediately. Instead, he studied the movements of the Vex ships. 4 were now moving erratically, changing course and firing at random intervals. But 1 ship, the one they had left unaffected by the jammers, was moving with purpose, trying to direct the others with light signals and visual cues. "There," Reed said, pointing. "That ship is taking command. When the railgun is ready, that's our target." Foster looked up from her console. "Sir, I've been going through the relic's archives. I found something interesting. Old war logs from the first conflicts with the Vex ancestors 2 centuries ago." "What about them?" Reed asked, bracing himself as another hit shook the ship. "They detail tactics used against the early Vex ships," Foster explained quickly. "According to these records, Vex ships of that era had a critical weakness. Their propulsion systems couldn't handle rapid pressure changes. That was centuries ago, Reed pointed out. Surely they've fixed that by now. Maybe not, Foster said. Look at the design similarities. She pulled up a comparison between the old Vex ships from the archives and scans of the current ones. The basic engine configuration is nearly identical. They've upgraded the technology, but the fundamental design remains the same. Reed studied the images. What exactly are you suggesting? We could create a controlled implosion near their engines. The sudden pressure wave might disable them without destroying the ships completely. And how do we create this implosion? Foster hesitated. We'd need to eject some of our fuel cells and detonate them at exactly the right moment. Reed considered this. That's risky. If we misjudge the timing. It's risky, Foster agreed, but so is facing 5 advanced warships with our limited weapons. Another hit rocked the ship hard enough to throw several crew members to the floor. Multiple hull breaches, called the damage control officer. Sections 20 through 24 exposed to vacuum. Seal those sections, Reed ordered. What's our status, Wilson? Railgun at 70% charge, Captain. 8 more minutes, but we're losing power in some systems due to damage. Reed made his decision. Prepare 3 fuel cells for ejection. Target the area between those 2 Vex ships. He pointed to the display where 2 enemy vessels were moving close to each other. The crew worked quickly, despite the continuing barrage from the Vex ships. The relic groaned under the assault, its old structure taking punishment that would have destroyed a modern vessel. Fuel cells ready for ejection, reported the weapons officer. On my mark, Reed said, watching the enemy ships carefully. 3, 2, 1, mark. The fuel cells shot away from the relic, small specks against the vast darkness of space. They drifted toward the gap between the 2 Vex ships. Detonate on my command, Reed ordered. He waited, counting the seconds as the distance closed. One of the Vex ships noticed the fuel cells and started to turn away. Now, Reed shouted. The fuel cells exploded in a silent flash of light. The shockwave rippled outward, invisible in the vacuum, but devastating in its effect. It caught both Vex ships, washing over their hulls and creating rapid pressure changes around their engine sections. The results were immediate and dramatic. Both ships lost power, their lights flickering out as they began to drift aimlessly. A cheer went up from the Relic's crew. 2 ships disabled, Foster confirmed. Their engines are completely offline. Reed allowed himself a brief smile before turning serious again. That still leaves 3, and they'll be more cautious now. As if to confirm his words, the remaining Vex ships pulled back, keeping their distance while still firing at the relic. They're adapting, Reed noted, learning to respect us. Wilson's voice came over the comm. Railgun charged and ready, Captain. Reed nodded. Target the command ship we identified earlier. Let's see how they function without leadership. The relic turned, bringing its most powerful weapon to bear on the enemy commander. Despite the damage it had taken, the old ship moved with determined purpose. Target locked, said the weapons officer. Reed took a deep breath. Fire. The railgun fired with a thunderous vibration that shook the entire ship. The massive tungsten rod streaked across space, leaving a brief trail of superheated particles in its wake. The Vex command ship tried to evade, engines flaring as it turned sharply. But the old weapon was built for targets that could dodge. The projectile struck the Vex ship just off-center, tearing through its sleek hull like paper. The enemy vessel didn't explode dramatically. Instead, it simply broke apart, pieces spinning away into the darkness of space. Direct hit, reported the weapons officer, her voice steady despite the tension. Target destroyed. Reed nodded, his face grim. He took no joy in the deaths of the Vex crew, but they had left him no choice. Status of the remaining ships. The 2 we disabled earlier are still drifting, Foster said, checking her sensors. The other 2 are pulling back. They seem to be retreating. Reed watched the tactical display as the two functional Vex ships accelerated away from the battle. Without their commander or the ability to communicate properly, they had lost their advantage. "Let them go," Reed said. "We still have a colony to protect." The bridge crew worked steadily, assessing damage and rerouting systems. The relic had taken a beating. Smoke filled some sections, and the emergency lighting flickered in parts of the ship where power was unstable. "Damage report," Reed ordered. "Multiple hull breaches on decks 3 through 7, reported a crewman. "All sealed by emergency bulkheads. Life support at 72% capacity. Main engines operating at 61% efficiency. Railgun offline." The power surge from that last shot burned out several key components. Wilson's voice came over the comm. "Captain, we have repair teams working, but this old girl has taken about all she can handle. Another serious hit might break her back." Reed rubbed his tired eyes. "Understood. Let's hope we don't need tow." "Captain," the communications officer cut in. "We're being hailed by one of the disabled Vex ships." "On screen," Reed ordered. The face that appeared was another Vex officer, but one with different markings than Crick's. This one looked both angry and confused. "Human vessel," the Vex said stiffly. "I am Sub-Commander Vex of the Expansion Fleet. You have destroyed our flagship and disabled my ship. How is this possible?" Reed straightened in his chair. "Your fleet made a mistake, Sub-Commander. You judged a ship by its age rather than its capabilities, and you judged humans by our politics rather than our resolve." The Vex officer's eyes narrowed. "Your vessel is primitive. Our scans showed minimal weapons, yet you have defeated 4 of our most advanced warships." "Perhaps," Reed suggested, "you should have studied your history. The relic may be old, but it was built to fight and survive. Sometimes the old ways still work." The Vex was quiet for a moment. "What are your terms?" "Terms. For our surrender," the Vex clarified. "We cannot fight in our current condition. What do you demand of us?" Reed hadn't expected this. He looked at Foster, who seemed equally surprised. "You will leave this system immediately," Reed said firmly. "You will take no action against Haven Colony or any other human settlement. And you will deliver a message to your leaders. Human space is protected." The Vex gave a short nod. "We require assistance to restart our engines. Foster will transmit the frequency that will allow your systems to reboot," Reed said. "But be warned, we'll be watching you leave." After the transmission ended, Reed slumped slightly in his chair. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving him suddenly aware of how close they had come to destruction. "Sir," Foster said quietly, "sensors are picking up new ships entering the system." Reed tensed. "More Vex?" "No," Foster said, breaking into a smile. "Human signatures, a lot of them. It's a fleet battle group." The communications officer called out, "We're being hailed by the HS Defender. It's Admiral Jenkins." The screen showed a stern-faced woman in a crisp modern uniform. Her eyes widened slightly as she saw the damaged bridge of the relic. "Captain Reed," she said, "what in God's name happened here?" "We picked up reports of a battle and came at maximum speed." Reed managed a tired smile. "Just a disagreement with some Vex ships. Admiral, they didn't think much of our old relic. We had to change their minds." Jenkins looked at something off-screen, then back at Reed with newfound respect. "Our scans show 2 destroyed Vex warships, 2 disabled, and 2 retreating at high speed. Are you telling me your ceremonial ship did all this?" "We had some help from good engineering and old war tactics," Reed admitted. "The relic may be old, but she still knows how to fight." "Remarkable," Jenkins said. "We've been receiving scattered reports of Vex attacks on frontier colonies, but this is the first solid evidence. How bad is the situation on Haven?" "The colony took heavy damage, but most civilians made it to the shelters. They'll need assistance with rebuilding." Reed hesitated, then added, "Admiral, the Vex mentioned that some council officials have been paid to ignore these attacks. That might explain why no one has responded until now. Jenkins's expression hardened. I see. Rest assured, Captain, that will be investigated thoroughly. She paused. What's the status of your ship? Wilson spoke up from where he was working on a damaged console. She's hurt bad, Admiral, but nothing that can't be fixed. The old ships were built to be repaired, not replaced. Good, Jenkins said with a nod. Because I'm officially rescinding your decommissioning orders, Captain Reed. The relic has proven its worth today. Once repairs are complete, I want you to lead a task force back to these frontier colonies. Find out what's happening and put a stop to it. Reed straightened in his chair. It would be an honor, Admiral. After the transmission ended, the bridge was quiet for a moment. Then Foster spoke up. So much for becoming a museum piece. Reed smiled, running his hand along the worn metal of his chair's armrest. Some things aren't meant to be put behind glass. Some things are meant to keep doing what they were built for. The relic drifted toward the approaching fleet ships, its battered hull bearing the scars of battle like medals of honor. From the colony below, small ships began to rise into orbit, people coming to see their savior with their own eyes. In the governor's office on Haven, Representative Davis appeared on the screen, his perfect suit now rumpled, and his expression anxious. Governor Bell, what happened? We received reports of a battle, but you didn't expect anyone to survive to tell about it. Bell cut in coldly, like the other colonies that were attacked while the council looked the other way. Davis paled. I don't know what you mean. Save it for the investigation, Bell said. Admiral Jenkins is very interested in how the Vex knew which colonies to target and why no help was sent. This is absurd, Davis sputtered. And that old ship, the relic, what happened to it? Bell smiled. It did what it was built to do. It fought. It won. He leaned closer to the screen. They called it obsolete. They mocked it for being old. Then it annihilated their fleet. On the bridge of the relic, as repair teams worked around him, Captain Reed looked out at the stars. The old ship hummed beneath his feet, damaged but unbroken. Not bad for a museum piece, he said quietly to himself. Not bad at all.